Hello, my name is James Sheerin, the host of the Sheer Growth podcast, and we have Brandi Sims from Brandinc PR. So, lovely to meet you, Brandi. Please tell me a bit about you and your business, how long it's been going for, and let's listen to what you've got to say.
Absolutely. Well, happy to be here and such a pleasure to meet you and talk about PR communications. My name, of course, is Brandi Sims. I'm the founder of Brandinc PR. I have worked in the PR and communication space for over 15 years now. Started Brandinc PR 5 years ago. It was around the time of the pandemic, but I promise it was not intentional. I've been working a 9 to 5 within a corporate communications role. And while I enjoyed my job, I didn't find a lot of fulfillment in it. I also had a lot of issues with pay disparity. A lot of my friends that are also in PR and comms are branching off, they're jumping into entrepreneurship, small business, and I have very similar experience to them. So maybe this is my time to shine and give it a try. Entrepreneurship is for me as well. So I left that 9 to 5, started Brandinc PR, and within a matter of weeks, I got my first client, tapped into my network, reached out to all of the friends, the colleagues that I'd worked with across the country, and just said, "Hey, I've got this agency and I'd love to do some work. If you have a need or need some help, I'm here, I'm your girl." And it built from there. Within the first 7 months, I hit my six-figure mark by myself, which was incredible. From that point, we've been able to scale and grow into not just me, but now a small team that has a range of specialty and expertise, from graphic design to brand development to PR and media outreach. We've had the pleasure of working with several amazing brands that range from entertainment and lifestyle to nonprofits. When I first started in PR and communications, I worked with nonprofits and banks. And slowly over the years, I just started to branch out and try every industry and see what fit for me. What I landed on was entertainment and sports. That was the area I really enjoyed. I had a phenomenal time getting to learn more and work with amazing athletes and sports professionals. One of the first clients I had at a celebrity agency was Cam Chancellor while he was playing with the Seattle Seahawks. I had a lot of great experiences working with national public figures at that level. And it just continued it on with Brandinc PR. So as I mentioned before, we've been around since 2020. This year we'll be going on our fifth year. We have an amazing, amazing staff. We have an incredible remote internship program where we host students across the country and now internationally. They get the opportunity to learn about PR and comms and its application to today's environment. They're learning all of the hands-on skills needed to be successful in this career and in this space. We work heavily with students every semester, bringing them in, teaching them all of the ins and outs of PR and a career in this space. We work with some incredible clients doing great things in this world. So I'm so fortunate, and so how do I say this? There's some days where I really pinch myself that, one, I'm in business. I would have never thought that for myself. I was never that person. I'm like 9 to 5, playing it safe. I need to know I've got this check coming in the first of every month. I was not that risk taker. So to see myself now, 5 years later on my own, and even seeing myself in my 16th, 17th year of being in PR and communication, it's just like, wow, here we are, and we're still doing this work. We're still shaking it up. Who would have thought this would be
Yeah.
my life? But I'm incredibly fortunate. I've got an amazing team, an amazing group of people in it, and also an equally amazing network. So definitely, I have a lot of stories to tell in this 15 years, let alone this last 5 years.
It sounds like you've had a great journey so far, and I love the fact that you're giving back to the community, which is really inspiring. And I'm really interested to know what a typical day looks like for you at Branding PR.
Oh, absolutely. A typical day starts with, I like to pray in the morning. I also like to get a good workout in. I call it getting game ready before I start my day. So it's going to
Yeah.
consist of, a little meditation, a little prayer, but it's also going to be a little workout, a little fitness. It could be one morning I might do Pilates, the other I might just lift weights, but it's something to get my heart going and get my mind in the right frame to tackle whatever the day is going to bring me. And then from that point, I go into mom mode. I'm a wife and a mother. I have two little ones, 9 and 11, and they are very rambunctious. I call them my Sour Patch Kids. I run them around, get them ready for school, get them off to school. And from that point, I get into my work day, which usually consists of meetings first thing in the morning. I like to knock them out early, mainly because I feel like your brain, you're fresh, right? You're ready to go. Remember, I just got my game ready. We're going to conquer this day. So I like to get in my meetings right then. Like, let's do our meetings in the morning. I meet with my team. I meet with my assistant, and we talk about what's on the hopper, what's on the plate, what do we need to work on, what has been completed, any tweaks, any adjustments. From that point, we get into what is the future outlook, what is coming down the hopper in the next week, 2 weeks, month, and a few months. We cover all of that ground. And then essentially it's getting our marching orders for the day. What do we need to take care of today? That's the opportunity that I have with my team and my assistant to go over. From that point, usually it's around lunchtime. For most PR folks, lunchtime is a coffee, and that's me. I started healthy, but it doesn't stay healthy. Anyone in PR and comms can relate to this. We're powering our day through caffeine. That's how we survive. I usually grab a coffee. I will say that I've gotten a healthier form of coffee. It's a mushroom coffee. So it's definitely more of the healthy alternative to it, but it still gives me the pump up I need by lunchtime and keeps me going and keeps me active. Typically that afternoon, I dive into strategy planning. By that point, we've kind of settled into the day. There's been a lot of engagement, a lot of interacting with folks. Usually afternoon is a good time for me where I can sit down, decompress all of the information I've collected from this morning and early days, right? And just kind of sit down and start to strategize and plan. And from there, I usually will wrap up my day with I call it a call sheet. And I write down what I need to follow back up on in the AM, things that I'm going to put the pause on. Because again, with strategizing and planning, it can take a lot of time as you're building out ideas and different scenarios. It takes some time. And sometimes you need to pump the brakes. If it's something
Yeah.
that's going to be lengthy, I need to put more eyes on this, but we have to have a stopping point. That's the point. And usually that's why I do my call sheet where okay, this is what I'm going to revisit back into my strategy planning session for the next day. And then I get back into my second shift, which is mommy mode and wife mode. And we do it all again the next day.
Sounds like you have a really structured day. I do it the opposite way. I like to do all
Yes.
my business strategy and agency building tasks in the morning. After the lull from lunch, that's when I start doing the meetings because I find that
Ah,
I can be a lot more engaging in the afternoon. The thinking projects in the morning, I'm more alert for. And that just works for me. But it sounds like you've got a really good structure anyway.
but James, it's so funny you said that because there's this book that I read. It's by David, I can't remember his last name, but it's called When. And in the
Okay.
book, it talks about your schedule and how you naturally formulate your schedule. The first thing they address in that book is everybody's got their time sequence. How you find and identify what your time sequence is how do you sleep? What time do you
Yeah.
naturally wake up without an alarm, without anything? What time do you naturally wake up? He categorizes you with a lark, an owl, and I forget the middle one. I would be what they call a lark. I'm an early riser. 5 or 6 o'clock is usually about this time that I'm up meditating, working out so I get up and that's just naturally. No alarm. I just get up at that time. The midpoint of my day is usually about lunchtime, and that's when it kind
Yeah.
of goes down for me. Whereas somebody that's a little bit later, that's going to be a peak time for them, right? I'll send you and really share with you that link to that book. But I thought it was interesting the way they break it down so well that we all have different patterns. And with those patterns, that's what allows us to be the most productive in our day. So for you, it makes so much sense. You are ready for meetings and all of that good stuff and being a speaking head in the afternoon, whereas I'm better in the morning for that. It's power patterns are different. I just wanted to point that out. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah.
Your
No.
point of going for this.
For me, when I get up, I have to do the routines, to go to the gym first thing. But then I'm like, okay, I have the highest energy at this point, so this is
Yes.
the time that I need to do money. For me, I have a section in the morning I call money making tasks, and that's when I'm doing lead generation, reaching out to
Mhm.
clients. looking how I can upsell to my existing clients. And then the afternoon, that's where I'm doing more
Mm,
collaboration, team building, that sort of stuff. So yeah, it's
very
interesting,
cool.
the different flows. So I just wanted to
Yes.
move into industry trends now, because obviously you're working PR. So what major shifts are you seeing in the industry right now?
Oh, that's such a good question. Well, there's a ton of shifts that we're seeing, but I'll start with the main one, the media landscape. The media landscape has been shifting so drastically over the last few years. It was coming. With the introduction of social media, it opened up the door for digital media landscape and to be taken seriously. In the beginning, blogs got a decent level of traffic. It wasn't horrible, but it wasn't noteworthy, right? You
Hmm.
cut to 20 years later, and now you have blogs that are competing with television networks that have been out for over 100 plus years, closer in that time now. There is a significant amount of viewership and subscribers that can compete with traditional media. It has forced a lot of change and shift in communications and media. So, because the media landscape has changed, you're seeing a lot more media professionals that are being laid off. I think there was a mass layoff just in the last 2 years of major publications across the board, from print magazine to some notable digital websites and those type of spaces. We've seen a mass rise of those layoffs, and it's largely because they're having to compete with viewership, and some are not adapting as quickly as it's changing. So because of this, when you look at the PR role, it definitely has changed the way even we are approaching media. In the past, when I first started, we were still sending fax for press releases. We were still sending our regular typical emails, sometimes mailing that information and press kits over to media. Now everything is digital. Television, on print, on radio stations when we were doing that outreach. Now most strategies and plans are consisting of digital platforms. We're not just reaching out to TV broadcasts that have transitioned more into digital. We're talking about podcasts. We're talking about
Mm.
blogs. When you look at the stats and the research behind it, it supports it because we're seeing viewers and consumers shifting from traditional platforms to digital platforms. So even viewership has changed. So as a result, our strategies have had to adapt and change because of it. And we've had to really consider and weigh in on these digital platforms, the ones that get that engagement, that get that interest, the eyeballs on the product or service that we're offering or sharing on behalf of our clients and our brands. We're having to make that pivot to include them in it. Now, in the past, we didn't. Blogs at one point, and it's so crazy, and I wish there was more historical stuff about it, where blogs were just like a sleaze mag, right? It was nothing to be taken seriously. Oh, it's just an opinion. But now you have blogs and bloggers competing with reputable national and very professional and those that have expertise within the journalism space. And so that has created its own issues and caveats. But I say all that to say that's one of the biggest trends that we're seeing is the complete transition in the media landscape to include digital media as part of the conversation. We have all had to truly adapt to that and include them in the strategy and our plans in terms of how we engage with the public and consumer.
I can imagine, because you've been in it for such a long time now, the
Mhm,
transition from paper, TV broadcasting, radio, and now to
mhm.
social media, blogs. There's so many different additional sources now to be able to get the message out there, right? And how are those trends impacting your business and your growth?
Oh, yes, yes. I mean, that's another great question. Well, how it's impacted my business is that, again, with the inclusion of it within our strategies and our plans, it was a lot to adjust to, and not really necessarily my team, but really clients, because 10 plus years ago, it was looked at as the second type of media. I'm speaking on behalf of a consumer or a client, right? We want to be taken seriously. The only serious media at that time was you needed to be in the newspaper, notable magazines, or on notable television shows. We had a lot of pushback from clients that would say, "Oh, you've got us an interview with a podcast. Is it a real podcast? Is it what's the viewership like?" And I don't know. I don't
Yeah.
know how I feel about that. There's a lot of pushback from clients specifically that they didn't think it was real. It wasn't worth interviewing on. There was not a name that they recognized. And then when we would show them the stats and really give them a comparison between the traditional platforms and these digital platforms, they were shocked. And it was one of those instances where you have to eat your words, right? But there was that pushback initially. So what we did, in addition to, of course, sharing stats and giving them more information so they felt confident and comfortable about doing interviews with podcasts or providing quotes to blogs, we really focus on the education piece. And we broke
Mhm.
things down and we explained things very well to our clients to help them understand the shift in media where these platforms are competing with traditional media. Now they're being taken seriously. Consumers are making it a point to use these digital platforms for their news, for their information, meaning where to buy certain products, what's the best products. They're not flipping through the newspaper at the rate they were 10, 20 years ago. So we've got to make the shift too, meaning we've got to get your products on these platforms as well because these platforms are worthwhile. They also have the engagement and the viewership that you're ideally looking for and want. This is not a fad anymore. This is here to stay and it's only going to grow. It was our role as PR and communications professionals to let them know and really explain what's happening. And from that point, I think that's where they felt more confident and comfortable with the idea of interviewing and doing more with these digital platforms and taking those just as seriously as they do the traditional media platforms. The transition was a tough one. I'm not going to lie to you, James. It was definitely a tough one because we had a lot that were firm on their beliefs that if it's not an interview or a quote provided for a reputable, a notable or established media platform, they didn't consider it real media. And therefore, why should I bother? And we were like, that's just not the case today. They're being taken seriously too. You can see it in the advertising dollars being spent on these platforms. You can see it in the viewership, the subscribers that are being introduced to these platforms on our tuning in to what these platforms have to say. So with that, you've got to get on there and adapt quickly or you will get left behind.
Is there a specific media form that you're seeing with your clients, which is more popular than others, which is more of a standout media form, or do you have a more holistic approach, ticking a lot of boxes across different media formats?
Very good question. So what we do is we rely heavily on this strategic model, right? It's called the PESO, and it covers each area of media and it taps into each area in a different way. For example, the P is paid media. So advertising, where are we advertising, the locations and the platforms, and ensuring that it is targeting the correct audience. That's one part of the strategy. E is earned media. Where are we getting placements? Are we tapping across the board? It's not just traditional media, of course, television, print, and radio. Those are traditional media. Then you get into digital media, which is podcasting, your blogs. We have to make sure in the earned media that we are tapping into each of those core areas. With each of those areas of the PESO model, that's what we're doing to be able to ensure that we're tapping into every way we can to engage our audience. And I know part of your question was, do we focus on one area? With the PESO model, you don't focus on just one core area. You tap into
Yeah.
multiple areas. The idea is that you have a very targeted approach, but you are casting a wide net. And it's not in the hopes that you'll catch them all, but it's a very targeted approach that you will hit each of these core areas. But you have to also consider your consumer, right? Not everybody's on
Yeah.
Facebook, and not everybody's on TikTok either. Okay.
Mm.
Each of these platforms have a very specific person that is engaging on these platforms. What we would post and advise our clients to share on a LinkedIn page is going to be very different from what we suggest they'd share on a TikTok page. And each of these platforms have different needs, and you have to adapt and build your strategy behind those needs. That's how you can effectively address your target audience and engage them the proper way. But again, with the PESO model, it taps into each of these core areas and it ensures that we are able to capture the right attention the right way on behalf of our clients. I love that strategy. I've personally been doing it over 10 years, but of course, I brought it into the company and made that part of our training resources so that my team could understand the benefits of this strategy. If you want to engage your consumer, the first thing that you have to recognize is that you're going to likely have multiple different profiles of your ideal person. We can all have a commonality, but be very different. I'll give the example of the coffee drinker. We had a client in Austin that had this amazing coffee. It was called Whoopie Coffee. And it was South African, very nice, like nutty blend of coffee. And one of the things that they did and what we had to create for them is we had to build out a profile. And how we broke it down to them, it was like, okay, so let's start with our first profile. Who is this person that's drinking the coffee? Well, let's think our sports people. The sports people love, apparently, and this is something that over the years I got to learn, they do like to get a cup of coffee in the morning. And it's kind of that boost and that push for them. It kind of gets the heart rate going and all of that good stuff. Some of them like to have a black coffee. Okay, well, what does that sports person look like? And what do obviously it's going to be a range when you're talking gender, race, and all of that good stuff. But getting a profile of what that person likes, where are they likely to shop? Where are they likely to be? Going to your Nikes or your Under Armours. If they like this type of coffee, because it is a healthier type of coffee, they're likely going to be the ones to consider other healthy alternatives too. They're likely to have a subscription to the GNC or the Vitamin Shop. That's how you build out a client profile or a consumer profile. And then you're going to do this for every person that you think of that's going to be interested in the type of product you have. In just that example alone, it's exactly why we have the peso model and we tap into all of these core areas because we're looking at someone that is multiple someone sometimes. We're not a
Yeah.
monolith. We have a lot of interest. Have to build those out so that you have a better understanding of who your audience, your core audience is and how you can best engage them. We like a targeted approach. We definitely tap into every which way that our consumer is going to be. And that's how we're able to be successful with it.
I love that peso model. It's really interesting how you broke it down. Also, having that kind of targeted approach by hitting all different areas. I think that's something I've learned from you today. Thank you for sharing that. So
Yes, of
tell me,
course.
tell me the current state of your business then. What's working well for you right now? And on the other side, what's frustrating for you right now?
Well, what's working really well is our boots on the ground approach. We get in the mud with our clients. If we've got to make phone calls to media, we're making phone calls to media. If we've got to reach out on their social media, we're doing that. We have a very gritty and old school approach to how we engage with our media contacts and potential partners. A lot of agencies have embraced technology and I love it. We've embraced it too. But we don't use technology as a replacement. We use it as a tool. And that's how I look
Mm,
at AI and ChatGPT. It's very much a tool. It's not a replacement. If you're sending out emails and no one's responding, guess what? You do something different. You've got to switch it up. And that's how we approach things. If we're not getting a response via email, we're going to pick up the phone. Phone's not working. I can't get you on the line. I'm hitting up your social media and so on. So we have a very, very, and I say old school because that's what we did back in the day. If we
yeah.
didn't get my facts, hey, have you called them, Brandi? You need to get on the phone and call them. I'm getting on the phone and calling them and finding out, hey, did you receive this? Let me send it again. Something that I think makes our agency unique is that we're getting right there in the thick of things with our clients as well as with the media to give them what they're looking for and making sure that we're engaging them in the most effective way possible, not being so reliant on technology to do it all for us. Sometimes we've got to get in there and actually get the thing done. That bootstrap approach is what ultimately has made us successful. We're doing everything we can to get the best result for you because your success is our success. So I think that's something that's been working. And it's always surprising to hear when clients will say, wait, you guys did all that? My last agency didn't do all that. I was like, well, we are different, but then
It's
I'm
different.
also different. I'm a different type of leader. I'm one of those ones that I wouldn't give you something that I couldn't do myself. I'm very much like, hey, if this isn't working, what do you think? What should we try? What are some ideas? But I'm always going to be that person that's open to it, but also like, okay, so that didn't work. What's the next step? What do you think we should do next? I'm always that type of person. I've always been that type of person. And I've also always been the type of person, if you bring a problem, you better be bringing a solution with it. Because if I'm bringing you a problem, I'm going to have at least 3 different ways to give you like, okay, well, I could try this, I can do this, I can do this. And I want you to approach it the same way with me, because that's how we operate. and,
Yeah.
and that's how we get it done. But I would
Love
say
it.
what's not working on the flip side, definitely, oh goodness, I was talking with a colleague the other day about this, and it's something that within my industry has definitely been a challenge. One challenge that we've had in particular is a rising cost of our software. PR and comms started when we were just doing phone calls, faxing, and some emailing. But now we've got these amazing, amazing tools like AI and ChatGPT and software that is infusing AI. And you've seen just the shift of the cost of it from maybe a couple of $100s a month to thousands in some cases a month. That presents a challenge when we have to absorb higher costs to maintain this updated advanced technology that allows us to be more efficient in our work. you know the consumer has to suffer because that
Mm.
cost has to come somewhere. It forces us to have to raise the cost of our products and services. Otherwise, we take a hit in the monetary side, or we take a hit in the efficiency side by not having this
Mm.
technology. So I would definitely say it's a challenge trying to adapt as quickly as this technology is advancing and trying to provide the best value for our customers, but at the same time, being able to maintain as a small agency, support this clientele with the best products. But at the same time, we've got to make our adjustments too, and we've got to be able to do that. So it definitely presents a challenge. I've spoken with other colleagues, and it has been a concern across the board. How do we continue to pay for this, what was $200 a month equipment to now $1,500 equipment because AI is in it? They feel that because AI is involved in it, they can charge this much. How do
Mm.
we do this and keep up without raising our rates so high that consumers can't afford PR and marketing services? So it's a challenge, and it's something I've gone back and forth with a lot of people. We've only been able to maintain with some of the tools that we have. We're very bootstrapped already, so it works for us, but it presents a challenge when you have tools like that that can offer some assistance in that efficiency. But with the price tag, we don't want to raise the rate so high that our clients can no longer afford us. It definitely it's a double-edged sword, but we've been able to adapt as best as we can, use the tools that we have that we can maintain, and keep, the rate reasonable where our clients are happy with us and the value they're getting, which thus far they're very pleased with.
Yeah. I mean, technology is always advancing, right? And you've got to pick the tools which are going to enhance your business whilst maintaining the cash flow for the business. Ultimately,
Yes,
you've got to keep that bottom line in the green. What metrics are you most focused on improving over the next 6 to 12 months?
very good question. I would say over the next few months, the metrics that I'm always focused on is the media value. So for us, we look at each earned media placement for a client and communicate that to the client as the media value. So what's the value of this media placement that we just got for you? And with traditional media, it's very easy to find the media value. You look at how many words, how much was the placement, and we compare it by if, for example, if we had a client during COVID that provided a quote to the New York Times, and how we were able to communicate the media value of it is we said, okay, for this particular article that you were featured in, it was about a 2-page, it was pretty lengthy. If you were to go to New York Times or The Cut right now and say, hey, I want a 1 or 2 page advertisement, it would have cost you $250,000. And you got that free, because there's no cost to the interview. And if you're paying for it, there's something wrong. Or it's an advertisement, right? But if they're
Yeah.
charging for it and if you weren't anticipating it being an advertisement, they're doing something wrong. They're not supposed to be charging you. So when we would compare it in that sense, it helped them to understand, okay, I got it. If I were to go to them, that's how much it would cost. But because we're not going to them in that capacity, and this is actually an earned placement, they're asking you for your thoughts and your expert insight. We've got this opportunity for you, and they're asking you for that. This is what I'm providing, and this is how I've added value to it. This is what it would communicate in terms of the media value. When we did it that way, it helped them to understand, but it also helped us to gather metrics. One of the things I hate hearing about PR is, oh, you can't measure PR. Marketing, you can always measure it, but you can't measure PR. Yes, you can. And this is the model that I use to measure that. And it has been very effective because if you were to do the exact same thing, this is what you would get from that. And that's how we were able to do this. So those metrics that I'm definitely looking for in the next few months is always going to be, what is the media value of that placement? We don't want to just get clients and brands on any podcast, because you could be jumping on a podcast and only have 2 views or 1 subscriber. Is that really helping boost the awareness, the visibility of your brand? No. You need to be getting on platforms that have the engagement and consistent engagement and that viewership. That's the point. You wouldn't do a quote with a newspaper that only had 1 subscriber. The same thing, you wouldn't go on a blog and provide a quote to 1 subscriber and you find out the subscriber is their grandma. We love grandmas, but we need more than grandma to like you. We need other people, getting other people to like you. Those are the types of metrics that I'm
I love
always
grandmas.
looking at. We love grandma, but I want more than grandma to like me. I expect her to. But those are the types of metrics that I'm looking for. And I'll be continuing to look forward and assessing even further with clients, letting them know we're never just looking for any old opportunity. We're looking for ones that make sense for where your brand is at and where you're going to get the best engagement. And that's not to say, because I don't want to bash smaller podcasts. Absolutely not. Smaller podcasts are great too. And I definitely don't want to imply that you only want to be just looking for the big guys, the ones with 100,000 million, because let's be real, even those ones are very selective in the types of guests that they're going to have. It's going to be someone that is an A-list, notable, or some notable achievement or recognition that are going to be on those platforms. So I'm not saying shoot for the stars unless you have something like that. Then, of course, shoot for the stars. But until you get to that point, engage the smaller podcasts and the smaller platforms, because you never know what that's going to become. You need to look at their engagement metrics, ask those questions right out the gate. How many listeners, subscribers do you have? A couple hundred? I think that's a good start, because you think about it, you have a couple hundred friends on your friend list. You probably have a couple hundred people in your phone. That's all potential customers for your brand, product, or services. Absolutely. Maybe build up the podcast a little bit more, and then we can consider an interview or something like that. But that's absolutely something every brand, whatever level you're at, should be looking for when engaging digital media. You should be looking for decent engagement, consistent engagement on these platforms, and a decent following or subscribership. That's what you should be looking for. Don't go for the 1 and 2. Go for somebody that couple hundred, that's a good start. Don't always think that the largest ones are the only ones that you can consider. You want to consider those that are about in that middle point, to engage with them and provide some really great quotes and good information and insight. Maybe they will bring you back on, or someone else will see it and want to consider you as a guest as well.
Yeah, no, that's really good advice for not only PR agencies, but also for any kind of business that wants to get some exposure. It's putting yourself out there into that kind of the realm. Just on that, then, we talked about the client metrics. But what about Brandinc PR? What are your future goals, and where do you see the business moving to in the next 6 to 12 months? Where do you want it to be,
Yes,
should I
of
say?
course. Of course. Well, definitely see us making some heavy business moves. I'd see us acquiring more and starting to bridge the gap between other agencies. We work with several agencies behind the scenes, some white label, some not, but we work with several agencies across the country. And we help provide a lot of services that they are either not very experienced in or don't have enough staff in. So we do a lot of support there. So I see us acquiring other agencies and just kind of building them into the Brandinc PR company and allowing us to expand even further. Right now, we have an office in Oklahoma and we have an office in Austin, Texas. I definitely see, probably not next year, but definitely in the next 5 years, another branch location being opened where we can service those clients within that space. Because right now we're very Midwest, kind of South. It's like mid South. We have clients that come in from both the West and the East Coast of the country. And we want to be able to tap in and be a lot closer to them where we can close the loop and close the gap and deal with them more extensively right on their terrain. So I definitely foresee us expanding in either of those directions, but also acquiring other agencies.
Those growth goals, they're big.
Yeah.
I like it. And
Yeah.
if you could solve one major challenge today, what would it be?
Oh, goodness. If I could solve one major challenge today, I would definitely say education is such a big piece. I am such a stickler for education. I think it's so important. Media literacy should be a requirement at every grade level. I recently completed my PhD in strategic media communication. One of the focuses I had was on amplified messaging on social media and how it can incite, encourage, motivate behavior. And I used the Capitol breach and I used assassination attempts last year of President Trump as the basis
Mm,
of these events. Within that, I learned a lot about how we're constantly training, we're constantly being exposed to messaging that can inherently influence behavior. Ultimately, the behavior is going to be based on the person. It's the age old debate of nature versus nurture. When we tie in social media and frequent messaging, it has the ability to really influence the way we think, the way we operate, and ultimately how we conduct ourselves with others. I think that until we get a handle on access to social media, especially with those under 18, it's important for us to offer some type of media literacy. One big thing, and I noticed in my research, is that children are exposed, but they're not
mm,
exposed to what does it mean to be media literate? How do you identify a legitimate source as opposed to a fake one? How do you decipher between what is biased and what's unbiased? And so on and so forth. There's not a lot of information about this. And while many of these platforms have a recommended age, usually it's like 13, we know that a lot of kids are getting on social media as early as 6 years old. If they're going to be exposed to it at that early age, they need to be equally exposed to, okay, here are the ins and out of social media, as well as just digital media in general. It's important that they're aware of what they're being exposed to. It's important that they have an understanding of what they're doing on these platforms. And they are able to decipher between what type of messaging and what it means and how it impacts them. Media literacy is a big thing. So if that's something I could change, it would definitely be media literacy education. I would love to see it, not just at the college level or university level. I would like to see it at a younger age because kids are being exposed to it. Barrier, the platforms are doing some work, but it just hasn't really changed much as kids are going to be exposed to social media and have access to it, the more they're going to have access to it and there's no regulation or legislation stopping it. We need to do our due diligence and at least let them know what it is that they're exposing themselves to and making sure they understand it. Then I'll feel better about it. Right now, I look at all of social media like this is such an adult platform. They're exposed to so much more. And some is great. The main thing
mm.
that they need to be aware of how to identify what they're being presented with, especially with the sources of information. I think that's a huge critical thinking skill, which we're lacking in many areas with technology. We have to recognize again, technology is simply a tool, it's not a replacement. But we're not teaching that. It can quickly become a replacement. And then it turns into a replacement that is taking away important skills that we need to have. We need to be critically thinking. We need to be constantly working our minds and working our hands. We have to constantly be exercising that skill. Otherwise, we can lose that skill. And then we
Mm.
will become slaves to our technology and our tools. That's not the way we're supposed to do it. We're supposed to be using it simply as a tool and an enhancement of what we already have. That's the one thing I would change. Media literacy is so lacking, and we need to have that, and we need to have it earlier, and we need to be talking about it earlier. I think once we do that, we'll be the better for it, and we'll be a better society and understanding and really learning and knowing what we should be looking for and what we engage with. Absolutely.
Yeah, no, well, that's incredibly enlightening, really, but also very present in today's world. And I think you're right. There is that element of responsibility, especially from us as marketing professionals, to get a good understanding of it, not just for our clients, but for the
Mhm.
people that are going to be absorbing the information as well. This podcast has been really insightful, Brandi. So I really appreciate your time today. As we close out, is there anything else that you wanted to plug or say about Brandinc PR?
Of course. Well, hey, I'm always game to connect. So if you'd like to connect with me or connect with us, you can always check the website, brandincpr.com. And that's brand, BRANDINCPR.com. We're on all the social media handles. Well, not all, but I'll say most, the major ones. And that's at Brandinc PR. If you have questions or you want to get more information, you can reach out to us at hello@brandincpr.com. Please connect. I love getting great questions and sharing helpful advice that will get you where you need to go. And oh, I'll also shout out this. We do have a page on our website dedicated to resources for small businesses. I know I mentioned this earlier. I'm so big on how do we support our other small businesses? How do we help them? We have an entire page dedicated to helping small business owners and new entrepreneurs essentially be able to gather and understand PR at their level, exactly where they're at. You'll find a lot of great checklists, guides, things that you need to get ready for your interview. All of those things are available on our website. So you can look at it from the resources page on brandincpr.com. They're there for you and it's totally free.
That's amazing. I'll include all of the links in the description. And thank you, Brandi, for your time today. It's been much appreciated.
Hey, thank you. I'm so happy I got to be here and talk to you.